brought up some great points. I'm taking notes as we talk here for myself here. You talked about drive and commitment, the ethics and integrity of a person. You talked about doing personality profiles and tests to really get to the heart of it, and then gauging their curiosity and innovation, the ability to innovate. If you could get specific for me, if I'm a CEO and I'm interviewing someone and I've got a good feel for someone, are there specific things that I might ask, or specific key questions that you've asked in the past to really get to the heart of someone's ability and or cultural fit? Cultural fit is also a big one, for these young companies. What are some real practical nuggets that we might be able to share with our listeners that they could take away on Monday and really get some in-depth guidance from that interviewee? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Thankfully, right now there are an abundance of online tools that can be used in a myriad of ways. There are basic skills assessments where you can literally just check someone's basic computer abilities, their math, their spelling, their vocabulary, their grammar. This, might be taken for granted, but these tools are not that expensive, and why not have the absolute a raw score of what this person looks like compared to other people at their level. In addition, there are functional skill sets or online tests that can be used. Specifically, what often comes to mind in much of my practice is focused on the sales area, but there are sales tests or sales strategy tests that can be given to a sales candidate where they're given the opportunity to, they're giving facts about a sales scenario, and their answers are compared to top producers. So there are very objective tests that are that can be used now at a reasonable price, given the cost of a bad hire, very, very reasonable. And I think more and more companies should look at the potential there. As it relates to personality or fit, most companies that I talk to, especially in the natural products industry, have a culture that's at the other end of the continuum than the large cap CPG. And you've worked in P&G specifically, and I know that you understand the vast difference between the culture at that company or the large cap world leaders in business and the micro cap companies that are the majority of what we see in the natural products industry. And I think it's fair to say that many people, if given the choice, people kind of know which direction they want to go. And oftentimes they start out large, they want to move to the smaller, and some people have picked this industry and followed it through their whole career. But in terms of the fit, I would argue strongly that the true and best way to do a personality profile assessment is to actually have the hiring, ideally the CEO, the top executives of the company, and maybe the managers within the key departments all take a personality profile. And at the very least, have the manager that's hiring this individual take a personality profile and compare that profile with the individual that's being hired. Right. Now that is, depending on the profile you use, that can run up into some money, and I'm talking upwards of $1,000. But I think that, again, if that should be the final determinant of an ideal hire in my mind. And in the best case scenario, it's comparing the hiring manager to the employee, and going and realizing that not too many people will line up perfectly, and so understanding the places where the manager and the employee might have to work a little harder to make that relationship work, knowing that going in versus having there be a honeymoon period of 3 to 6 months and then watch that relationship blow up.
Absolutely. Yeah, at Garden of Life, we used DISC, DISC.
Okay, fine.
I know there's Myers-Briggs. A new one I've run across is 5 Dynamics, which is just fantastic. So there's a number of different profile systems out there, and I'm with you. I think it's absolutely worth it, not only to profile your interviewee or potential candidate, but also to interview your team, really understanding the strengths and weaknesses that you're trying to fill in. So that's absolutely great advice.
And then one other thing I was going to mention is the idea, and this goes back to the 1970s. This is based on a methodology that industrial psychologists came up with, but it's considered standard operating practice now to use behavioral-based interview questions during an interview, and the thought there is that the most accurate predictor of future performance is how someone did that same or answers that question in regards to past performance. And in that regard, if you've got a sitting VP of sales or a director of sales or director of marketing, director of ops interviewing a candidate in that function, it should be easy for them to role play with them and ask them questions about situations that they might come across in the industry if they've not been in the industry before, or scenarios that this company has seen. Sometimes companies, as you know, early stage companies in the natural products industry, especially on the sales side, will be able to avoid slotting fees because the buyer really understands the limited resources they have in terms of finances. That said, once those companies start to grow, the buyer is going to be much more willing to or desirous of getting those slotting fees for new product introductions, and how to handle that in a win-win way. And if that person has ever had to deal with that, if they've come from a large company, the likelihood is they've never dealt with that type of question.
Right.
And to give them real-time scenarios that they will see in this job and listening to those answers is a very helpful, and I think it's a time-tested way of determining fit. And I don't know that there's a right or wrong. It is supposed to give an impression of how the person thinks through situations, and how close those answers are to the way the company would handle those situations.
Absolutely. That's great advice.